Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, my weekly live stream podcast where I look at the weekend numbers and have a freeform discussion with the chat. Episode 79, Avengers passes Titanic. Wow, this is the first Box Office Addict on a Sunday in like months? I can't remember the last time we did this on Sunday. I got off work early today though, so fuck it. Yeah, I was going to do this during the week because Avengers passing Titanic was kind of the news of last week, as it's pretty obvious that the film's going to pass Avatar now. So, that didn't really... Yeah, good to see you, Castle, man. Or was it Castiel? My bad, Castiel. Yeah, so the Avengers thing, I mean, it still hasn't passed Avatar yet, but it should do it within the next week. To become the highest grossing film of all time worldwide. I don't know if it'll beat The Force Awakens domestically. I guess this episode should have been dedicated to Detective Pikachu, but fuck it. Also, I apologize to any of the long-term subscribers that I haven't been making a lot of content the last 2 weeks, and all I uploaded was those Game of Thrones videos. My bad. I didn't expect those Game of Thrones videos to do so well. Which gave me a huge sub boost, and the views on those videos, they just kind of blew up. And a lot of people seem to think that I intended to do it that way. Like, I keep getting criticisms on the one video about being a leech, that everybody jumped on the hate wagon with Game of Thrones, so then I jumped on the hate wagon to get views. And it's that armchair thing, it's the conspiracy theory. Every time you have a successful video on YouTube, this has happened with me with every video I've ever had do well. Yeah, Detective Pikachu did one Friday, but it lost the weekend. Which I think was to be... I honestly think Detective Pikachu's opening's a little disappointing, personally. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a good opening, but I think a lot of people were expecting it to open like 75-80 million. And the 58 million, while it's still a very good opening weekend, is not this huge. I think people thought with the brand name Pokemon, they thought it was going to open to 100 million and make $1 billion, but it looks like 60 million is about as well as it could open. And which, that once again, that's not a bad opening weekend. I'm not trying to knock it, although the budget's a little steep. This guy on fucking Twitter. We'll get into that. We'll get into a few people and things they've been saying about, Okay, because let's address some of the criticisms. I was going to do this in a response video to the comments, but I'm just going to do it here because it's, for the sake of convenience. Since the new Game of Thrones is on tonight, and I'll be doing a video tomorrow. Okay, criticism number 1. In the first video, I say that I hope that George Martin doesn't end the Night King storyline in the books like this. And I had said that I had read the books, which I have. So this led to like 1,000 comments of people saying, "Hey man, the Night King's not in the books, so I think you're lying, and you're just saying that to get cred. You're a fucking idiot." Okay, so I responded to several of these comments, but I got bored replying to a lot of people trying to get gotcha points. That was a word slip up. That's all it was. I meant to say the White Walker storyline, and I accidentally said the Night King. I recorded that video very soon after the episode had ended, and I was very emotional and pissed off about the episode. So during the rant, I made a few mistakes. I said Brian Cogman wrote episode 1 of the season. Brian Cogman actually wrote episode 2. Dave Hill wrote episode 1. Just things like that. It was a mistake. Now, should I have spent more time in the editing of it, and not just thrown it out there so quickly, and I wouldn't have made those mistakes? Yeah, that's a fair criticism, but this whole thing that I didn't read the books, and I don't know the books because I said that, and I got caught lying. No, I wasn't lying. That was an accident. I don't know, I guess none of these people have ever slipped up while they were saying something, but that was the first thing. The next thing is that I'm leeching, that I just made that video because everything got popular. I had no fucking idea that everybody was going to start making Game of Thrones videos like that. I didn't know Game of Thrones was going to turn into The Last Jedi. How would I know that? I uploaded that video like the day of. I uploaded it the morning after the episode, and then everybody started uploading Game of Thrones videos. Mahler uploaded a video. All these channels started uploading negative Game of Thrones videos. I didn't know that. I thought most people would love the episode. When the episode was over, I remember saying to my fiance, like, oh, I think most people are going to like this, and I had problems with it. And then next thing I know, it becomes trendy to talk shit about Game of Thrones. Beyond that, I certainly didn't know that the video I was going to make after that was going to do well. You know, the first one got 160,000 views, and then this last one got 70,000 views. I didn't know. Also, that's always the funny thing, like, yeah, you're a shill or you're a leech. If I was that good at YouTube to where every video I make, or that I end up making could get 100 million views, I mean, not 100, 100,000 views, and I know how to do that, then all of my videos would do that. Like, if it was that easy to make YouTube videos that get views, and then that's what I would do all the time. I made $200 off that one video, and the other one I made over $100. It wasn't like if I could do that every day, that's what I would do. Like, so that's what's always funny when people say that, when they're like, I'm gonna live stream for the finale. I'm not gonna live stream for tonight's episode. I'm gonna do a video review for tomorrow's episode, and then I'm gonna do a live stream for the finale after it's over. And then that following week, I'm going to do a Season 8 review, and that video will be edited by Terrible Lizard. And Terrible Lizard's already getting stuff together for that video. So Terrible Lizard's going to edit the video for me. So I'm going to go out big with that one. I'm going to do a full season review. But yeah, for all of you who are interested, I will be live streaming after the finale ends. Probably at 10:30, I'll start streaming. And I know that Alt-Shift-X is going to be streaming. I know that, like, Preston Jacobs will probably be streaming. I'm sure that In Deep Geek, I'm sure all those channels will be live streaming, Geeks and Gamers. So I'm not the only one doing it. But also, here's the thing. I made Last Jedi videos. If you go back, I came home and reviewed Last Jedi the night after I saw it, and I was mad. And then I made some videos. Yes, I did read the leaks. Yes, I did. And if any of you are new subscribers and you want to ask Game of Thrones questions in the chat for this, that's totally fine. I'll answer any of your Game of Thrones questions. When I made the Last Jedi videos, I made like 5 of them because each one of them was a chapter. And then it turned into, I'll try, Will. And that turned into a chapter, and then I quit making Last Jedi videos. You know, people have been milking The Last Jedi for almost 2 years. And I quit making videos on it. And then I just did reviews on stuff like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Ed Wood, Happiness, private lessons. I didn't make any popular clickbait type videos. The Game of Thrones, the new season starts. I'm excited about it. I don't like an episode. I make a video on it, and it does really well. It was just serendipity. It wasn't anything more than that. There was nothing... And it does feel that way. It does feel like when you have any kind of success, people turn it into something. You know, that gets very annoying. When, when you get a video that does well, everybody all of a sudden starts to hate you or talk about that, oh, you're just... My favorite thing is you think you could write the show better. They're like, I love when some terrible content creator with no production value, which all the people have said that have clearly never watched any of my other videos. A lot of my videos have very high production value. Even my recent ones, but the Garden State video, are you kidding me? I'll put that up against any nerd writer video. But then it turns into, you think you can write the show better. Why, if you criticize something and you attack the writing of it, do people think you're automatically saying that you should be writing the show and then you do better? I don't want to write Game of Thrones. Now, I probably could write a better Game of Thrones last season than Dan and Dave. But this whole idea that, like, you want to write the show, it's like, dude, I wasn't implying that. That's such a weird, lazy criticism that you think you could do a better job, or like, where's your HBO show? I'm like, well, dude, give me $100 million and I'll make an HBO show. I got that same thing with The Last Jedi. Like, you couldn't make a movie this good. Why do you think you're better? It's like, well, give me $250 million and I'll see if I can make a better Star Wars movie. If that's the deal we're going on, the negotiation. They act like just because Disney gave the Rian Johnson that money, or they act like just because Dan and Dave got that money to do Game of Thrones, that means they're brilliant. I don't know how to break people's heart like this, but you don't have to be a genius to write a goddamn television show or a movie. One of the most overused words for artist is genius. Okay, most artists are not geniuses, even from a creative standpoint. Especially adapting Game of Thrones, the books, into a show. It's like, you don't have to be a genius. George Martin did all the fucking work already. Or sorry, George R.R. Martin. People got mad I said George Martin. They're like, that's the producer of the Beatles. But yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to be a genius. I think thousands of people could write Game of Thrones better than they could. I think thousands of people could write a lot of movies and TV shows better than them. Like, what makes you think that you have to? What, I don't know. It makes me think these people have never actually written anything or worked on anything, because they assume that if you reach any kind of level of success like that, you're a genius. I even had them on the High Council where I debated whether or not George Lucas was a genius with them. Quit overhyping artists as these geniuses or directors. Orson Welles has a quote that I fucking love in an interview. It's an amazing quote. He said that he learned everything about making movies in about 2 days when he was directing Citizen Kane. Never made a movie before. Was taught by a cinematographer, the best cameraman in the world at the time. Taught him how to do everything. And Orson said basically if you're at a level of intelligence, you can learn how camera blocking works and movement and all that stuff, how to shoot a movie basically. The idea of it in a couple days. And he said anyone that's telling you otherwise is a liar because they don't want you to know. And that's something a lot of people don't know if they've never made a movie or written or something like that. It's not as difficult as people make it out to be. There's a structure to these things. There's a format to these things. Like with shooting something. Basically, you just put the camera in a spot to convey information that you want the audience to get. If you're shooting something, it has a purpose. Oh, look, this guy's shutting a drawer. Should probably cut to his hand shutting the drawer. It's like that. It's not like people overcomplicate it. It's not this high complex. Now, once you learn it, the complexity and the skill comes in how you play with it and the variations of it and what you add to it. But the basic understanding of these things is not very difficult. Story structure is not hard to understand. Cause and effect is not hard to understand if you have half a brain. All right, shot composition's not hard to understand. And a lot of people who do tell you that it's like they are lying. Because artists are kind of con artists and they're kind of protective of what they do. They don't want other people to kind of know their secret. But I'm so sick of that thing. Just to go, and then this guy on Twitter that I'm jealous. This random motherfucker. Who is this guy? It's really sad how jealous you are of Nerd Soup, by the way. So I said it's really sad that you view criticism as jealousy because I talk shit about Nerd Soup, which, by the way, I like Nerd Soup. I like those guys and their show. I just thought their opinion on that episode was shit. He says, feel free to criticize the show all you want, but it's hard to interpret your unnecessary attack. Unnecessary? I thought it was necessary. On a more successful show, simply for not instinctively hate-watching Game of Thrones like you do. Apparently, I instinctively hate-watch the show, even though I said positive things about that episode and the following one, as anything other than jealousy. And I said, wait, so you can't talk shit about people with more success than you without it being jealousy? That doesn't make much sense. I think Brad Pitt sucks. We've all heard somebody say that, George Clooney sucks. Oh, you're just jealous of them. Is that what it means every time? Like, I don't like this band. Oh, you're just jealous of that band's success. Like, what is with these fucking horrible straw man arguments that happen as soon as you get a halfway successful video? You're just fucking jealous. Oh, you think you're better. It's like, guys, come on. I was talking shit about them. I was talking shit. Have you never insulted anyone? Have you never told anyone to fuck off? Have you never made fun of anyone before? That's what I was doing. You guys all need to quit being pussies. You're part of this Nerd Soup culture. I'm sick of all these YouTubers that don't have a dick. They all cut their dicks off a long time ago. They're like that John Bobbitt guy whose wife cut his dick off back in the fucking 90s. Guys, let me tell you something. I've been on the internet a long time. This isn't my first rodeo. I was on forums. I was in chat rooms back in the day. Guys, you had to have a pair of balls to get through it, okay? People would say shit to you, and you had to deal with it, okay? Now, you're also sensitive. Like, anytime you hear me say something like, well, fuck Nerd Soup, you're like, oh my god, how dare you? How dare you insult those sweet young men? Like, fuck off. Like, they don't care. They didn't watch the video. They don't give a fuck about what I said. Why do you care so much? Like, why do you care? You're clearly just a fan of Nerd Soup, and you're upset that I said something negative about them. And you guys are trying to find this logic to explain why the writing is so fucking horrible on the current seasons of Game of Thrones. I'm trying to understand if D&D are not talented at all and tried but failed with this season, if they actually knew what they were doing and still didn't care. I think they're just assholes, and that they just want to end the show. I have all sorts of theories. I think they're just fucking egotistical maniacs. Like, that's my theory. Yeah, it all feels like Ryan Johnson-y. It's all very scary. But, you know, there's just, I mean, even the criticisms I made, there's so much better criticisms. I mean, just the criticisms other people make in the videos, like Gendry proposing to Arya. Well, that's just completely historically inaccurate. You know, they didn't propose like that back then. You know, there's things like that. There's all sorts of stupid shit. Why didn't Dany send out a scouting party to find Euron ships so a dragon didn't get taken out? There's stuff like that that there's no explanation for. It's just bad writing. And then people... Looks like Jigen from Lupin. Yeah, and I don't know why people... it's just something that confuses me. Yeah, that's the thing. I like Nerd Soup. I don't know... It's good, Madcap. I don't know why people think I just hate them. I just thought they were full of shit on that particular video. And that they were really trying to... I mean, they were praising things and then ignoring other things, and... that's all I was saying. I was just laughing at what they said. I thought it was ridiculous, but I think Nerd Soup's a good show. That's the biggest misconception, is that I hate Nerd Soup. I actually prefer that they're not adapting Watchmen the comic or any of the spin-offs of Watchmen. I like that they're doing their own thing. I think that's the best choice, honestly. I think Watchmen worked as a comic. I think adapting it would be very difficult. I think maybe only David Fincher could do it. This is a sequel series, right? Like, Ozymandias is old now. Jeremy Irons is playing an older Ozymandias. So this, and obviously now there's clearly like a cult of Rorschachs. But I think the idea of it being a sequel to Watchmen's actually one of the more clever aspects of it. That doesn't mean it's going to be good. But at least they're not trying to do, you know, the original story. At least they're trying to do their own thing. You got to give them credit for that. They're taking the property in the world, but they're going to do their own thing with it. And hopefully that'll be more interesting than... You know, and honestly, I really like The Leftovers. Damon Lindelof's show that he did before he did this. Even though I'm not a fan of a lot of Damon Lindelof's work. My armies are lions. I have an army of lions. All the lions. Go over to the box up. Well, I was just bringing up the Game of Thrones stuff because you know, the videos have done well, and I added a lot of subscribers off that, so I was just trying to give people a little bit of that. I didn't want to totally just not to ignore you guys. Do not think, Pat, just consume products. You guys are right. I've been wrong this whole time. This whole time. Alright, guys. Hold on. Sorry. That's just how the avatar looks. It looks tired. The idea is that I'm like a tired, burnt out video store clerk. That I'm always at this video store. It's kind of a conceptual idea that my character, the Pat character, is a cynical, jaded, burnt out video store clerk who's cynical towards modern cinema and movies and the internet and so on. So I'm tired, and that it just kind of goes with. That's why he has the stubble, like he hasn't shaved, and the uniform's kind of like a military uniform in a sense, like he has to wear it. He's stuck in this outfit. he's stuck in this please rewind aesthetic. It is his identity. It's fascistic in a way, and his hope is to break out of this identity that was given to him by this video store he works for, this outfit. And he's trapped by it. He's consumed by it. I have no hope for any of the Game of Thrones episodes. Funny enough, I think the best episode is going to be the first episode of the season. I think that's going to be the punchline to this whole season, is that the first episode's going to be the only one that was halfway decent. I can't believe they've had like 2 years off and this is the shit they've been writing. It's fucking embarrassing. D&D've had 2 fucking years to write this shit, and this is easily some of the worst episodes of the entire show. This is as bad as some of the worst episodes in season 7 and 5. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I don't know, the Sonic trailer was just a bunch of bad ideas. It felt like it was all made in a studio. It felt like it was all made by like a committee. Let's get a popular song. You know, I think they I don't know, it was a weird thing to cash in on. Plus, Sonic hasn't been nearly as big of an icon in the last like 20 years as he was in the 90s. And I love Sonic the Hedgehog, but still. That's funny, man. Well, the inspiration was Hanna-Barbera. The guy who drew the Avatar, he asked me what I wanted, and I said I wanted James Van Der Beek from Dawson's Creek as a Hanna-Barbera character in the style of like Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, but particularly Scooby-Doo or the Venture Brothers. So that's why the Avatar has that look to it. It was based off that, and Johnny Quest, obviously, because I'm a big Johnny Quest fan. I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan, so I asked for it to be, I wanted it to look like a Hanna-Barbera character. So, because I see a lot of comments of people like, it looks like somebody from Scooby-Doo, or it looks like Shaggy, or it looks like Freddy, and that's why it's supposed to look that way. That was the idea. Oh wow, you watch Doctor Who, I'm sorry. Also Sonic, I mean Sonic's aesthetically cool. Sonic's a cool looking character, which they fucked up the coolest thing about him, which is how he looks. We'll get the Gladiator video if I pass 20,000. Because I'll be at 13,000 subscribers this week, especially after tomorrow's video. And I imagine I'll get to 15,000 by the time we get around to doing the finale video and a little bit after that. So if I reach 20,000, I'll start working on the Gladiator video. But I still have the Donnie Darko video I need to do with Terrible Lizard. I mean, Denis Villeneuve wouldn't be a bad choice. It would be cool to see him do it, but you know, I'm not hung up on Watchmen being turned into a movie or a show. I mean, I think a Pokemon movie makes more sense than a Sonic movie, personally. I think Sonic's much, much harder to adapt than Pokemon. I think Sonic's kind of fucking crazy to turn into a movie. Gotta go fast! Chili dogs! I mean, I didn't hate the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, but it was definitely annoying. Yeah, tick-tock, tick-tock. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. You motherfucker. I'm aware of the Mafia games, if you're talking about the Mafia series, but I've never played them. I've seen friends play them. Maybe for a Sonic movie, Eggman can create mutated versions of Sonic to commit crimes and embarrass Sonic and make him look bad. Huh. I mean, I don't hate Zack Snyder's Watchmen, but I'm not a fan either. But it does have good elements. I like the Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach stuff. Question with this Watchmen sequel series, though, is Dr. Manhattan going to come back into it? Because he leaves at the end of Watchmen, so is this the thing? Is Dr. Manhattan going to return at, like, the end of the season? Dune is one of my favorite books of all time, and I've talked about it many, many times on this channel and on this stream before. And I am very excited for the movie. But yes, I love Dune. It's probably one of my like 20, 30 favorite books. I've read it a dozen times. And I think it's one of the greatest representations of the hero's journey. And I think a lot of elements that are in Star Wars came from it. Because it's funny, Paul Atreides is kind of a dry character, and it's actually a very clinical book, reading it. It's kind of like, it's a very slow, matter-of-fact book, the way it's written and all that. And I know some people think it's slow and can't get into it, even though they love the world building and the mythology. But I think that just makes it a more intelligent book. I like that Paul is a very matter-of-fact character. I think that makes everything in the book feel a little bit more realistic. That it doesn't have these grandiose characters, except for maybe the Harkonnens. But I should make a video of myself dancing. All right, well, I dance all the time. Why not? I like a couple of the David Yates Harry Potter movies. But he definitely did go for a slower, more deliberate kind of pace and style. I don't know what's going to be up with Night Owl and Silk Spectre, because Ozymandias is old, so I have to assume they're old as well. This obviously takes place a long time after the original story ended. Who would be the best director for Blood Meridian? Oh, the great Cormac McCarthy novel. Well, Todd Fields was going to direct it at one point. He was trying. He's the guy who did Little Children, which is a wonderful movie, and another one, I think it's called In the Bedroom. He's the guy that plays the piano in Eyes Wide Shut. He was friends with Stanley Kubrick. I mean, the Coen brothers are the obvious choice for Blood Meridian. I would like to think of someone more interesting than that, though. They are, like, because the obvious answer would be, like, them or Paul Thomas Anderson, someone like that, but James Franco is trying to make Blood Meridian, dear God. I don't know who I would pick to make the Blood Meridian movie. Not sure. I always wanted James Gandolfini to be in it, though, but that can't happen anymore. I think they're pretty... Half-Blood Prince is a really slow movie, man. Half-Blood Prince is a very slow movie. I think his tightest film in that series is probably Order of the Phoenix. Even though he condensed a really long book into a movie, that's actually probably his tightest film in there. I don't really have an opinion on the Child's Play remake. I don't think it looks very good. But I don't really care. Yeah, James Franco would have been my last choice. If you were going to ask me who's the last person you'd want to see direct Blood Meridian, I would have said James Franco. Also, I hate hearing this. Everyone's like, well, they're going to answer all of the stuff that you want answered in the show now in the prequel series. So you mean all the stuff that we watched this show for, this mythology to get answers to, the Night King, the White Walkers, the Lord of Light, all of that stuff. I have to watch fucking prequel series over years to get the answers to that stuff? I mean, are you fucking kidding? I 100% think The Shining will get remade. No question. I'd put money on it. Pet Sematary, it's very successful. Stephen King adaptations are happening. The Shining was in Ready Player One for a little while. I definitely think someone like either a big studio or somewhere like Netflix is going to do like a Shining like miniseries. But yes, in the next decade there will definitely be a Shining remake. I have no doubt in my mind. No, I didn't know they pushed Artemis Fowl another year. Oh yeah, Alfonso Cuarón's movie's great. Although I don't like the thing where Harry faints throughout the whole movie. That's my biggest issue with that movie, is all those scenes of Harry fainting. But outside of that, that movie has a Miyazaki quality to it. It's very wonderful. Prisoner of Azkaban's a great... To be fair, though, that's also, I think, her best book. But It's kind of like a perfect children's fantasy movie. Yeah, the CGI is... Dude, Fluffy looks like shit. Fluffy and the troll both look like dog shit. Yeah, I've played the Elder Scrolls game. Have I played all of them? I guess I have. Yeah, I've played every Elder Scroll. I was trying to think. I was like, is there one I haven't played? But then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did play all of them. I've only watched a few episodes of Cobra Kai. I haven't got to watch the whole show yet. Who would you want to direct a Shining remake? I mean, Fincher would be the obvious choice. Because, I mean, he's like Kubrick. But Fincher probably wouldn't do it. I have a choice. Hiro Murai directs Atlanta and episodes of the show Barry, which I will be doing a Barry Season 2 review. Because I did a review for Season 1. Now Barry's become super popular. Great show, but Hiro Murai I think would be an interesting choice. He's a very good director. It's on the edge of kind of blowing up, so I'd like to see him do it. Or Cary Fukunaga, I wouldn't mind seeing do it. Those are the first people that come to mind. I'm sure there's some other people. Taylor Sheridan, I think's his name, the guy that wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water. I think he directed that movie with Jeremy Renner. The snow movie with the bows and arrows. I can't remember the name of that movie. David Fincher is one of my favorite directors. He's probably in my top 10 at this point. He used to be in my top 20, but he's not my favorite director. He might be my favorite working young director in the sense that he still has a career ahead of him. He still has probably 20 years of movies to make, but he's not my favorite director of all time, no. But I do think he's one of the greatest directors of all time, and I think he's going to get looked back on as one of the greatest directors. Wind River, yeah, that guy, I think he could maybe do a Shining movie. I think his name's Taylor Sheridan. Yeah, Wind River. I'd like to see Chris Nolan do a horror movie, too. Apparently Inception was originally a horror movie before he turned it into a blockbuster. When he originally pitched it, like a decade before, it was a horror film, and it was more like Nightmare on Elm Street, which is really interesting to think about that film as a lower budgeted film and as a horror, especially the scenes with Marion Cotillard, because those scenes are kind of horror-esque. The scene in the elevator where she attacks them and they go with the elevator and she's looking at him, so that would have been cool if Inception had been more of a horror movie, horror sci-fi, because that's one of the coolest things about Nightmare on Elm Street that makes it so unique, is that it's a horror fantasy film. Which elevates it to another level. Same thing with like Candyman. I don't know if Nolan, I mean, I'd like to see Nolan do horror too, but I'd probably rather see Nolan do like an original horror movie. I don't know if I'd want him to adapt something. That's not true, Sam, because Gladiator exists. I'm not shocked that Big Lebowski and Fear and Loathing made a good double feature. One that I really like is if you watch Silence of the Lambs and Seven back to back. That's really fun. TCM showed them together one night, and it kind of blew my mind. When I was a teenager and I used to watch TCM all the time. And Turner Classic Movies. And I was like, shit, these play perfect together. Like, although after that 4 hours is over, you're just like fucking drained of like... You just look at humanity in a really fucked up way. But no one's played with horror elements. There's horror elements in Batman Begins. Oh, Gladiator's terrible. If you think Inception's a bad movie and you think Gladiator's a good movie, you're a fucking insane person. Every problem that you have with Inception, that problem exists in Gladiator. And a lot of Nolan's mistakes and things that he's influenced by comes from Ridley Scott's problems as a filmmaker. Outside of the two great movies, I'll even give him Thelma and Louise in his career. But Gladiator is a mess. From an editing standpoint, from a writing standpoint, from a characterization standpoint, Gladiator is a fucking disaster of a film that only gets by on like sheer spectacle and craftsmanship, just like Inception. Same fucking thing. All of the problems that people have with Inception, they criticize. All of the holes and everything, all of that exists in Gladiator. If you really want to pick it apart, you can pick apart Gladiator scene by fucking scene. As I've done with my friends over the last 20 years. Because we all hate Gladiator because it sucks. I'm not crazy, dude. I've just seen Gladiator and it's terrible. That's like saying Braveheart's a masterpiece. Like, dude, come on. It's fun. It's fun to see a tiger. Russell Crowe's, you know, having a good time. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's not like Gladiator's a boring movie, but is it a good movie? And is it? I certainly don't think. I actually think Inception's like a far better movie than Gladiator, but like in every way. And I'm not like an Inception apologist. I get a lot of the criticisms, but it's like, yeah, Inception's such a better movie. No, I actually like John Logan as a writer quite a bit. I think John Logan's done a lot of good work. Oh yeah, I like Braveheart too, but yeah, Gladiators. It's embarrassing that movie won Best Picture and so many people love it. It's one of the weirdest things to me is like this love for Gladiator that people have. It's fucking weird. So I'm watching it and I'm like, this is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. This is like Michael Bay. Like, that's what I think about a bad Ridley Scott movie. It reminds me of Michael Bay movies. All the time. A lot of the same mistakes, like this music video commercial background, no sense of narrative or storytelling abilities whatsoever. The performances are pitched in a very odd way. Questionable decisions from production standpoint. You know, like when I saw Robin Hood, his horrible Robin Hood movie. No, I also hate Black Hawk Down, to the disappointment to a lot of you probably. I think Black Hawk Down was part of the reason that we have so much shaky cam and quick cutting in modern movies. I think it really helped kick a lot of that off. My biggest issue with Black Hawk Down is you spend about 15 minutes with the characters at the beginning, and then it turns into an action movie that's awful. Yes, he made Alien and Blade Runner, and those are both great. And then the rest of his career pretty much sucks. This is the thing about Ridley Scott. He's kind of a hack like George Lucas, and nobody wants to say it because he made Alien and Blade Runner. Also, Alien is not just Ridley Scott. And I don't know how many times this has to be said. That screenplay that was written, you know, Walter Hill worked on that screenplay. What's his name? Dan O'Banion worked on that fucking screenplay. Geiger did the fucking designs. I know Ridley Scott designed the ship and the outfits and all that stuff. A lot of the brilliant stuff about Alien was not Ridley Scott. It was a lot of the other people who wrote on the movie, did the set design, his cinematographer, the cast that he had, that things worked out the way they did while they were filming it. Like, Alien is not just the product of Ridley Scott. That was the work of a lot of very talented people all working on it together. In fact, same thing with Blade Runner. Same fucking thing with Blade Runner. Ridley Scott, brilliant visualist. Really on the level of like a Tarkovsky or Kubrick. One of the greatest visual directors we've ever had. No question. Like, Legend's one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen. But as a fucking storyteller? Ridley Scott's just like this alcoholic too. And he's been making the same movie. He's been doing their superheroes bullshit ever since Blade Runner, the androids. And then once you see Prometheus and Alien Covenant, it's like George Lucas with the prequels. You're like, oh, this is what this guy's been wanting to do the whole time. He just had other people working on the stuff before that kept him from doing this. Now he's getting to do whatever he wants, and this is what he wants to do. Memories of Murder. One of the best films of that decade, if not the best film of that decade. I haven't played enough of Red Dead 2 to have an opinion on it, honestly. I've had no time. I work like 50 hours a week. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. When Ridley Scott's left to his own devices, he makes those movies. And he's continuously done that his whole career. He made maybe the worst film I've ever seen, 1492. It's Christopher Columbus. That's the worst film I've probably ever seen. And everyone forgets about all these awful Ridley Scott movies. G.I. Jane. You know, I like Black Rain as much as the next guy, but it's a fucking guilty pleasure. Okay, let's make that clear. Legend's a piece of shit, even though Tim Curry's great in it. Ridley Scott has a good year, that movie with Russell Crowe. He's made so many bad movies. He's made a bunch of bad movies. Body of Lies. They're all really bad, and everyone just never brings them up. And they're like, but he made Alien and Blade Runner. I'm like, yeah, and then he's made like 25 bad movies? I like the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, but it's still not, like, great. It's better than the original cut, but... American Gangster's really overrated, very generic. Like, I know Ridley Scott's one of the greatest directors of all time, I'm shitting on it, but his filmography doesn't back it up. You look at his filmography, and he's made a bunch of bad movies. A lot, actually. So to me, that puts into question his whole career. Pretty much after Blade Runner, it's a lot of bad. And even the thing I hate the most about Blade Runner 2049 was his fucking idea. So... No love for Ridley Scott on this channel. I'll make that clear. I'm not a Ridley Scott fanboy. And it's funny, because Alien and Blade Runner are two of my favorite movies, but... Alright, let's get to the box office. Dumbo. Tim Burton's recent disaster. $170 million budget, $110 million domestically. Horrible domestic performance. $343 million worldwide. Shazam really got its butt kicked once Endgame came out. I feel bad for this movie. Because it had such good word of mouth, and then the opening weekend, 53 million, the reviews are good. And then this thing did just not hold at all. $100 million budget. That 137 mil domestic is mediocre as fuck. Even with this budget, you gotta include marketing. And 358 million worldwide is not good either. Even if the reviews were good and people liked this movie, this film did not perform that well. That is very mediocre box office for a superhero film. Captain Marvel, unfortunately, is one of the biggest movies ever. 1.1 billion, 1,123 million to be exact. 423 million domestic, which puts it past Wonder Woman. So once again, just like last year with Black Panther and Infinity War, Marvel has two films out that made over $1 billion. I'm going to keep moving up because I don't care about movies like Breakthrough or Ugly Dolls. Let's look at The Intruder, 6.6 million this weekend. $10 million opening weekend originally, $20 million so far, $8 million budget. The Hustle, $13 million opening weekend. Not bad, all things considered. Anne Hathaway, there's this like misconception that she's a big box office draw, but she's not. She just stars in properties that do well, and she's in them. Maybe during The Princess Diaries. And then Rebel Wilson has no box office. She's actually kind of box office poison outside of Pitch Perfect. So I don't get her career either. Like, they keep putting Rebel Wilson in movies and they never do well. Yes, I do like Thelma and Louise. I like Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, and Matchstick Men. Those are the 4 Ridley Scott movies I like. And I like Black Rain, but Black Rain is a bad movie, but I think it's a very entertaining bad movie. Michael Douglas is riding around on a fucking motorcycle. Yakuza they have katanas on motorcycles. It's badass. But yes, I do like Thelma and Louise. Very much. Yeah, but remember when everyone was saying, on this chat months ago that, like, because I was saying Pokemon, that Detective Pikachu wasn't going to be this big movie. And everyone's like, no, dude, you're underestimating Pokemon. This is going to make $1 billion. It's going to open over 100 million. Everyone was saying that in the chat. And I'm like, you're crazy. There's no fucking way. And that's exactly the case here. So I don't know why people were all thinking that it was going to make like $800 million. Oh yeah, that scene where that he gets his head cut off Andy Garcia with the... Yeah, that's one of the greatest scenes ever. No, I don't like Black Hawk Down. This is my problem with Black Hawk Down. About 15 minutes, you get to know these characters. Not very well at all. And then it becomes a 2-hour action movie where everybody looks the same and there's a bunch of shaky cam and people getting shot at. That's my problem with Black Hawk Down. There's no emotion to the movie at all. You don't know the characters. It's just an action movie. Which isn't necessarily a fair criticism, because that's what the movie's going for. But, yeah, I remember watching it just thinking, all these guys look the same. I don't know who just got shot right now. It's got nice cinematography. It's a very good-looking movie. But, yeah, Josh Hartnett, are you fucking kidding me? Black Hawk Down, yeah, I was never impressed with that movie. It's pretty, but it doesn't have a story at all, and I can't even tell you any of the characters' names. So that's my issue with it. Like, every time I watch it, I just don't feel anything. It's just no emotion there. But Black Rain also has a badass score. That Hans Zimmer score is badass. Honestly, I like Black Rain. I'll add that. So I like 5 Ridley Scott movies. And I like the Tim Curry scenes in Legend. But that's it. That's where we end. And when he shoots Idris Elba in the head in American Gangster, that's fun. Yeah, was that you, Will? Who said, like, yeah, Detective Pikachu is gonna, like, open to, like, 100 million and make $1 billion. I remember that. I remember somebody saying it in the chat, and I was like, I don't think it will. I think maybe if they had made just a Pokemon movie, that might have happened. But you gotta think, this is a very specific movie. So let's talk about it. Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Which I think originally this was just called Detective Pikachu, but I could be wrong. Directed by Rob Letterman, who did Monsters vs. Aliens, Gulliver's Travels, and Goosebumps, the great filmmaker behind what that horrible Will Smith movie, Shark Tale. The great Rob Letterman. So anyway, $150 million budget, a little pricey, I gotta say. I think they could have made this film for $100 million. I don't think this needed to cost $150 million, I gotta say. Starring Ryan Reynolds of Deadpool fame. That budget, man, that's way too high. $58 million opening weekend. Very good opening weekend. Let me make that clear. I don't think this is bad. A $60 million opening weekend is a fine opening weekend for this movie. Not a bomb by any means. $112 million foreign. Currently $170 million worldwide. So I'd say $400 to $500 million it should be in the bag. Domestically, it's a question about word of mouth on this, because I think with that budget, I don't know if this will make $200 million, because this is going to have to make over $200 million domestically. Basically, they need to make $500 million worldwide for this to look like a very successful movie with that budget. And the marketing campaign had to be very expensive, because I saw all sorts of ads for this movie all over the place. If the budget had only been 90, 100 million, I wouldn't say that, but this is a very expensive movie, surprisingly. I mean, the CGI looked good, like the Pokemon looked good, but damn. They really invested in this. You know, if the opening weekend had been like 78 million or 88 million, this would really look like a success. This is just kind of on the edge of being really successful, but it's not quite there. Like, you expect a Pokemon property movie to open up to these kind of numbers. This didn't really have a surprise opening weekend. It kind of opened within expectations. But still, 170 million worldwide debut is not bad. We'll just have to see how the word of mouth goes to see if it holds up. I mean, that's a good opening internationally. So, certainly not a bomb. But I would say a slight disappointment. I think a lot of people thought this was going to do better. I think a lot of people thought this movie had a real shot at like $800 million. And I just can't see it doing it with this opening weekend. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I remember with Spider-Man Homecoming, I was just wrong every weekend. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds got paid like $50 million. Sorry, let me go up and read this real quick about the tracking. Yeah, I expect Godzilla to underperform as well. I agree. I don't think it has anywhere near the hype of the Godzilla movie from 2014, and I think that movie disappointed a lot of people. I'm not sure if I buy that people don't go opening weekend with their kids to movies. Because when they go on Saturday and Sunday to go see the movie with their kids, like animated movies open over 100 million and kids movies open big all the time. Also, I don't think they were necessarily marketing it towards kids. I think this movie was marketed towards adults who have grown up with Pokemon. Like, most of the people playing Pokemon Go weren't children. A lot of it was adults, so I'm not even sure it's like this was marketed as a kids movie. I think this was marketed just towards all Pokemon fans, in particular 90s kids. Kids who grew up in the 90s is my thinking. I don't think they were like trying to pitch this that's just for little kids. I think this is aimed at people in their 20s and 30s who were back when Pokemon was like at its peak. That's how I feel about it. I don't know. I don't think they were thinking like we're gonna get the kids. I think this was a pure nostalgia play. Yeah, Shin Godzilla is good. I agree with you. But what's the name? Gareth Edwards? Gareth Edwards Godzilla I'm not a fan of. After the first 15 minutes. First 15 minutes are good. I just don't see how Godzilla doesn't underperform. I just can't see it opening very well. I just don't, even though the trailers are beautiful, by the way. I mean, and I like the director, but it just seems like there's no hype for it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but you know, you don't get that feeling. I just don't think, I don't think they're aiming it for as a kids movie. I think it is a kids movie, obviously, because it's Pokemon. But I don't think that's who they made the movie for. Yeah, millennials don't really have kids, do they? Yeah. Yeah, everybody works hard on everything that's ever been bad, really. Any bad movie you've ever seen, there was somebody working hard making that movie. That doesn't mean it isn't bad. How am I supposed to sing the Godzilla theme? Want me to hum it? Yeah, it is weird they didn't do a video on it. That's a good point. You know, they do seem like they would have talked about Shin Godzilla. I'll give you that. That is weird that didn't happen. Didn't the Evangelion guy do that? Anno? Didn't he make that movie? He wrote it and he co-directed it. They did have someone else direct on it too. He's a really good choice, actually, to have him work with it. Oh yeah, Gareth Edwards' Godzilla's horrible. Once Bryan Cranston dies and it follows Quicksilver, that movie gets fucking dull as shit. First 15 minutes are really emotional. When the wife dies at the beginning and you're following Bryan Cranston going back with the son, and then after he dies, you're like, oh my god. Oh, that's right, the Godzilla cartoon, yeah. Shit, I forgot about that, yeah. Godzuki, the little Godzilla. Yes, Anno, yes. Hideko Anno. Who I also think did work on Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. I think he worked with Miyazaki on that film, if I'm correct, as well. Dude, who hasn't watched Kill la Kill? That's like one of the most popular animes of the last, like, 10 years. Hey dude, read Fight Club and now reading Wise Guys, about to read the unsourced picture of Dorian Gray. You ever read the last one? Yeah, Dorian Gray, yeah. Hasn't everyone read that book? Is that like one of the most popular books ever? I definitely wish the Godzilla 2014 movie had been more about Godzilla fucking shit up. That's why I went to go see the movie. Well, I mean, you just answered your own question. Shin Godzilla felt like a politically charged version of the first movie. I mean, politics, religion, all that, that's all in Evangelion. And it's giant mech suits versus giant, like, alien creatures. I don't really know what to call them, but yeah. Yeah, he animated the God Warrior. Yeah, I thought so, because it looked like Eva stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of comparisons to Eva and Godzilla. Like, it's very similar. It's giant things fighting each other in cities, and there's a deeper subtext going on about it, which is what the original Godzilla is, and that's what Eva is. They're very similar things, actually. That's why he was such a good choice to do a Godzilla movie. Yeah, the God Warriors. Yeah, because I was wondering, because I think that was one of the first things he did. And then I think him and Miyazaki collaborated on this music video where Miyazaki directed it. And it was based off concepts that Ono had for a movie he was working on, or a short film. That one where the girl has the wings. There was another Godzilla series that was like a sequel to the Matthew Broderick movie. That was a cartoon show too. What's with all this Avengers Assemble on your left? The songs, that's funny. I like Bryan Cranston too. He's only in the movie for 15 minutes though. That's what sucks. He's like, he has this, there's like, the Godzilla Gareth Edwards has this amazing opening scene. And then the first 10 minutes, you're like, this is a really good movie. And then he does something so stupid, it fucks up the whole movie. And then you start following this character that's so bland and boring, and the whole movie gets generic after that. And it just becomes this guy going from one location to another as Godzilla attacks it, or the monster that Godzilla's going to end up fighting. Then you wait 2 hours for something to happen. He keeps cutting away from Godzilla. And then in the finale, you finally get to see some Godzilla action. But even while that's going on, you keep cutting to other characters. It sucks too, because I remember the trailer for Godzilla being amazing. The Halo drop sequence looked so amazing in the trailer. All of that. I mean, like, you guys are hiding something. You know, and I mean, that movie, it looks so good. And the opening weekend was 93 million. Everybody went to go see Godzilla. It was so hype. And then it had like a 70% drop in its second weekend. I have a review for that movie up on the channel from Last Call Reviews. It's like the second review I ever did with Todd. But Godzilla was a huge disappointment for me. Hear me and rejoice. We are all children of Pat. Yeah, that Godzilla cartoon was good. I haven't seen it in a long time, but when I was a kid, I watched it when it was on TV. And I remember it being, like, really good. It was weird, though, that they used to make a cartoon out of everything. If there was a movie franchise out, there was a fucking cartoon of it somewhere. Usually on Fox Kids. Yeah, it's not that I minded him focusing on humans and not Godzilla, it's just the human characters in the Godzilla movie sucked. That was the problem. This new movie, I mean, you got Kyle Chandler in it, you got Eleven in it, I think Vera Farmiga's in it. The cast in this is just amazing. It looks a lot better. Like your James Bond? What? Like young James Bond. Oh, okay. I was confused. My James Bond. What the fuck does that mean? Pee pee poo poo. Like Asuka and WWE. Alright, let's get to the film of the week, the #1 movie this week. which not by no surprise here. Avengers Endgame in its third weekend had a pretty steep drop, which was expected because this opened over the summer. The benefit that Force Awakens had is that it got to play over the holidays without a lot of competition. You're already seeing films like Pikachu come out and put a dent in Avengers box office, but still, $63 million this weekend, $723 million domestic. That makes it the third biggest film domestically. Avatar's at $760 million, and Force Awakens is at $936 million. So it should, I don't see how it doesn't reach 900 million, but can it reach that 936? At one point, a lot of people thought this was going to be the first film to break 1 billion domestically, but it's slowing down too much to reach that. The question about if it was going to beat Avatar, you know, that was the question, because the idea, it would have to do 700 million more than Infinity War. So I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it would beat Avatar. But then when it opened $100 million more than Infinity War, I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to rethink this. That kind of changed everything. It's like, well, how can it not beat Avatar? Because it's already at 1.7 billion foreign. So it only needed to make that $1 billion to beat Avatar's 2.7 billion. So it looks like Infinity War, it looks like Endgame is going to make anywhere from like 1.9 to 2 billion foreign, and it should make, I don't think it'll beat Avatar by that much, because I don't know if it can reach 3 billion. To reach 3 billion, it would have to do like 2.1 foreign. And I just don't know if it'll reach that. But this will definitely beat Avatar. It's only like $300 million away from beating it. So, and to be fair, Avatar was an original property, and it came out a decade ago. So there is context to a lot of this. But still, apparently Endgame is one of the most seen movies of all time, even adjusted for ticket price inflation. This is one of the 20 most seen films ever made. Which is why I'm upset it was so disappointing. But let's just do some comparisons here to just talk about this. So the Russos come in and do Captain America Winter Soldier. That makes $714 million worldwide, $260 million domestically. Then they do Civil War, which is kind of an Avengers movie. $408 million domestic, $1.1 billion worldwide. Then we have to wait a little while, and we get Infinity War, which is a huge hit. $257 million, breaks the opening weekend record that Force Awakens had, makes $2 billion worldwide. And it's like, well, shit, that seems like the top-up point. Then here we are with Endgame that opens even higher. And just comparisons for Kevin Feige right now, there's nothing to compare this to. You can't even compare Star Wars to this, because you got to look here. Black Panther, you know, 1.3 billion. Captain Marvel, 1.1 billion. Just look at this guy's numbers here, okay? This guy's 25 billion. Look at this. Avengers Endgame, 2.4. Infinity War, 2. The Avengers, 1.5. Age of Ultron, 1.4. Black Panther, 1.3. Iron Man 3, 1.2. Captain America Civil War, 1.1. Captain Marvel, 1.1. 8 movies at over $1 billion in the MCU. Spider-Man Homecoming, 880 million. Guardians 2, 863. Thor Ragnarok, 854. Guardians 1, 773. Winter Soldier, 714. Doctor Strange, 678 million. Thor the Dark World, 650. Iron Man 2, 623. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 622. Iron Man, 585 million. Ant-Man, 519 million. Thor, 449 million. The first Captain America, 370 million. One of the lower grossing Marvel films. And then The Incredible Hulk, which only brought in 263 million worldwide. But just over the last few years, all of these other films were recent, except for these Avengers films. Black Panther's recent. Civil War was just 3 years ago. Captain Marvel was this year. Endgame was this year. Infinity War was last year. Black Panther was last year. So as you can see, Marvel's getting more successful. Spider-Man Homecoming was 2017. Thor Ragnarok was 2017. Guardians 2 was it 2017. So just right there alone, they had 3 different MCU films open that year, make over 850 million. And then we have Spider-Man Far From Home coming out, and it's very possible that film could make $1 billion, considering Spider-Man Homecoming made 880 million. It's not out of the question that Spider-Man Far From Home could make 350 mil domestic and $700 million at the international box office. But even if it only makes like Even if it just does Spider-Man Homecoming numbers, if it only makes like 850 million, it's still a huge hit. So they have another big movie to come out, and I believe the end of Phase 3 is Spider-Man Far From Home. So there you go, Avengers Endgame. It's going to become the highest grossing film of all time. I don't know if it'll reach 3 billion. It's past Titanic, James Cameron's Titanic. But it did take, to be fair, the difference between Titanic and Avatar in this movie is this took 10 years of build-up and continuity and an interconnected universe and hype and all of that stuff, where those were just standalone movies that made that money. So I do think those performances were more impressive, but that doesn't take away the numbers. This is still a huge, huge money maker, even if the budget is $356 million. This film's already made $2.4 billion, and it's only been out 3 weeks. This made a lot of money, and it made a lot of money fast. I mean, it opened at 1.2 billion its first week. You know, that's crazy. This movie made a lot of money fast. You got to give it credit, man. You know, you can't deny it. I was disappointed in this film, but the hype was certainly there, and all the years of build-up, Kevin Feige's plan paid off in a big, bad way. The results speak for themselves. Let's go into some horror movies right now. Pet Sematary, kind of a disappointment, I think, financially. $54 million domestic, 109 worldwide. And same thing with Us, only in the fact that it had such a huge opening weekend, and yet it just Get Out numbers. You know, that $71 million opening weekend, it's like, well, shit, this film's going to make 230 mil domestic. But it had some big drops. But luckily, the budget was only 20 million, so the 175 million it's going to make in the 253 million worldwide, which is funny because this is like the exact same numbers as Get Out. It's still a huge, huge hit for Jordan Peele, even though his new Twilight Zone show kind of sucked. But good for him. Us was a huge hit. So Us made a bunch of money. Pet Sematary, you think with the Stephen King boom, it's sad that we got a Pet Sematary movie and it wasn't that great Pet Sematary movie that it could have been. I want to see where How to Train Your Dragon ended up at. 517 million. Well, it did good. All right, yeah. So that's the thing. Marvel really pulled it through, man. But Robert Downey Jr. made like $70 million off this goddamn thing. I think It Chapter 2 will probably make the same or even a little less than the previous one. I don't know if it'll make more. Because part of the hype of that first one is the kid storyline. And I am actually more excited about the adult storyline in this version of it. Because I like the cast so much. I love that it's Bill Hader and fucking James McAvoy. Are you kidding me? In that trailer, it looks better than the first movie in a lot of ways. And apparently it's going to be darker, but I think it's going to open about the same. I think 110 to 120 million, and I think probably 250 to 300 mil domestic, and probably 700 million worldwide. I'd be shocked if it made like $1 billion. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I think that's probably about as high as a horror movie can get, is It making $700 million, and that was such a surprise. I don't know if It Chapter 2 is going to like blow that out of the water. Unless the hype gets unless the reviews come out and they're like, this is the best horror film ever. I don't know. Thank you, James. I can't wait to do my next Game of Thrones reviews. There's only 2 left, man. I got into this shit late. To think I could have been spending the last few years reviewing Game of Thrones. But yeah, tomorrow will be the review for 8.5. And then I will be doing a live stream next Sunday for the finale. And then I will do a Season 8 review. And then I'll probably be done with Game of Thrones for a while. I don't think I'm going to talk about it after that. I'm going to go back to making video essays. And a Donnie Darko video that I've been planning for a long time. Oh, I don't know. It depends. I mean, they still have Spider-Man. They still have Black Panther. I think they shouldn't make many Avengers movies. I think they need to stick to the standalone or team-up movies. But I think Marvel will be okay. Does a bear beat a tiger? I don't know. But yeah, I think that, I mean, Captain Marvel made a fucking $1 billion, so I think, and they still have Guardians of the Galaxy, and now Thor's in the Guardians, so I think they'll be fine. They have Guardians 3. They could reintroduce Doctor Octopus or the Green Goblin. They could make 4 or 5 Guardians movies, really. And then you have, you have Black Panther 2 is going to make a lot of money. And then they're going to have X-Men and the Fantastic Four in a few years, so I think they'll be totally fine. And Deadpool. Me too. I was way more... Yeah, Infinity War was much more of a satisfying conclusion all these years than Endgame for me too. Totally. Endgame was a weird movie, man, tonally. The way it was paced. The decisions they made. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 should make $1 billion. So they're fine for at least the next few years. I'd say the next 3 to 5 years they're okay. After that, who knows? Really, it just depends on how good the next Spider-Man movie is, and how good Guardians 3 is, and how good and how well they handle Deadpool and the X-Men and all that. But I don't see their box office dropping that much. I don't think they're going to reach these kind of numbers again anytime soon, but you know, I think they expected that. Oh, dude, Endgame is nothing but plot holes. Yeah, Nerd Soup's a good channel. That's the biggest... I like Nerd Soup. Just because I talk shit on them and I didn't like their video doesn't mean I dislike them. No, I don't think Stephen King. I think his books are very well suited to make into films, actually. I think more so than a lot of writers. Who's your favorite Lupin the Third character? Jigen. Oh, not Jigen, Zenigata. I meant to say Zenigata, the detective who hunts him down. Although I'm a big fan of Lupin himself, but... Yeah, they got X-Men now. Yeah, they'll be fine. Man, as soon as they have a trailer that has fucking the new Wolverine and all that in it, and it's an MCU movie, everyone's gonna go see that shit. It was the most fan servicey fucking movie. And to see that the same weekend as the Battle of Winterfell, and they were both just such big disappointments, it was just kind of like, it was so jarring. I was like, man, I waited years for both of these things? Like, I basically spent the last 10 years building up to this in the same fucking weekend? Yeah, to me, Zenigata's kind of the glue of Lupin the Third. Like, without him, it wouldn't be as engaging as it is. Although it is a great mix of James Bond, Indiana Jones, and all sorts of things. I can't believe they haven't made a Lupin the Third movie franchise in the States. It's such a likable character, and I really think you could have, like, 3 or 4 movies out of Lupin the Third. Fujiko, too, I'm a big fan of, but for obvious reasons. One of the hottest drawn characters ever. You know, and it just influenced so many things. Cowboy Bebop's clearly so influenced by it. I like Deathly Hallows Part 2 a lot. The first one I have issues with, but I think the second one's great. I love the last Harry Potter movie. What's been my most enjoyed movie so far this year? I'll have to think about that. I haven't really enjoyed anything. Probably either Us, parts of it, or... Yeah, fuck. It's been a bad year so far now that I'm thinking about it. Like, I really should have an answer for that, but I'm like, huh, not really anything. Not much, Tyler. Yeah, so far it's either Us, I think was the most enjoyable movie I've seen so far. Off the top of my head, maybe I forget something. Man, I worked 10 hours today. No, I did enjoy Us. I just said I enjoyed it. I'm not saying 2018 was a good year for movies. I thought 2018 was a fucking horrible year for movies. I was shocked how bad 2018 was. I don't know. People, I don't know. There's the auteur theory became such a big thing. And I think Pauline Kael, I think she either started or hated it, but once we started treating artists as the auteur, once the auteur theory came in, I think a lot of it had to do with the French, and film criticism and film essays in the 70s. I think that's where it kind of started, the idea of the genius, the visionary genius filmmaker that controls every aspect of the art. Because it's a better story, it's a better myth. We like these great movies to have been made by people that are beyond us because the art feels beyond us, beyond our humanity. So we like to think these people are greater. And maybe some of them are. Maybe Orson Welles was. You know, maybe Alfred Hitchcock was. Maybe, you know, maybe Godard was. Maybe, you know, Truffaut, maybe they were a little greater. Maybe Spielberg is a little greater, but I actually hate Pauline Kael as a writer, and she does not understand how a movie is made. And she got to a point where she started to get really anti-Semitic in her reviews, especially with Woody Allen movies. What do you think is the best year for movies this decade? Probably it was either 2010 or 2011, the year that like Social Network and Black Swan and all those movies came out. Toy Story 3, I think those all came out the same year. I think that was probably the best year for a movie so far this day. I think, yeah, it was like Black Swan, Social Network, Inception, a bunch of decent movies came out in one year, and they all got nominated. I think that was 2010. 2014 was also very good. I agree with you. 2014 was a really good year for movies. And I think 2016 was, but I could be wrong. I think 2016 was a good year for movies. Yeah, no, she has some of the craziest reviews. I don't get how people like Bret Easton Ellis or Quentin Tarantino hold her up on such a pedestal, because I read Pauline Kael, like me and Blood Money just laugh about Pauline Kael. And I've read everything from Pauline Kael too. I have Pauline Kael's books and has her reviews in it and everything, and it's like I do not get it. I mean, it's not like she was a horrible writer, but this just like praise of her, I never like. Ebert said crazy shit, but he could write a good review. I don't even remember what all came out in 2017, man. Oh yeah, Woody Allen might be my favorite filmmaker. You know, someone asked that earlier. Is David Fincher your favorite director? It's like it might be Woody Allen, because he probably has more movies I love than anyone else. When I think about it, he has at least like 20 movies that I love, not just like but adore. I mean, like Hannah and Her Sisters, Annie Hall, Manhattan. I also love Interiors, Bananas, Love and Death, Sleeper, Take the Money and Run, Zelig, Broadway Danny Rose, Purple Rose of Cairo, Crimes and Misdemeanors. I mean, it's just one after another. I mean, those movies are his run in the 80s is unfucking precedented. Really. Like his run in the 80s. Like you start with Stardust Memories and you end with Crimes and Misdemeanors, but if you look at all these great movies he made in that time, it's absolutely astonishing. I dream of one day seeing you in a stream with Doomcock so Harvey and Ben Shapiro can meet. Used a zero as YouTube told me to censor something. Thank you, man. $50. Holy shit, man. Thank you. Seriously. Yo, Bananas is great. Love and Death is my favorite of the early Woody Allen comedies, though. Yeah, Annie Hall. Yeah, Annie Hall's amazing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he had, like the 70s all the way through to the early 90s, even Manhattan Murder Mystery, he just made a shitload of great movies. And I don't think anyone really has a run as... I don't think there's many runs in history as good as his. Where he just made, like, one good movie. Oh, got Radio Days. One of my favorite movies of all time. Fucking Radio Days is in that list, too. He just made all these, like, 3.5 out of 4 star movies. Like, just one after another. It's crazy. So that's why, you know, I put Woody Allen up there, because it's like all of those movies I love, you know. Oh, pesos, man. So it's not $50. You just gave me like $3. You fucking asshole. Way to get me all hyped up, man. I was like, shit, I just made 50 bucks. I was all pumped about my day. I was like, this stream was worth it. I didn't see it was pesos. Now I see, I just saw the 50. I'm not a big David Foster Wallace fan of his writing, but I'm a fan of him. I'd recommend, like, looking up interviews with David Foster Wallace or reading about him. No, I didn't see Ben. He walked out on a BBC interview? No, I didn't see that. It's okay if you're poor, man. My life doesn't totally suck. I mean, that's one of the best streaks in cinema. I don't know if it's the best. I think, like, Kurosawa gives him his run for his money on that, but... I watched What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and if I'm not mistaken, it's your favorite film of all time. It's not my favorite film of all time, no. It's like one of my favorite movies, but it's not my favorite film of all time, no. I don't even think it's like in my 30 favorite films of all time. My favorite movie is Clockwork Orange. Art was always political? I mean, I mean, probably. I'm sure art can be anything and mean all sorts of things. Although I did get this weird thing. Somebody left a quote of George R. R. Martin on my video on the Game of Thrones thing, and it said, it quoted George R. R. Martin saying, art is not a democracy. And he said, I'm so glad that whiny bitches like you, because when you criticize something, you're whining. Don't have control of the show and all that. And I said, well, you know, first off, okay, so you'd prefer that these hacks who can't write do the show instead of us, who none of us want to write the show. I don't want to write fucking Game of Thrones. But also, art always ends up being a democracy anyway. Yes, I've read Clockwork Orange. So I disagree with George R. R. Martin. I get what he's saying, but art eventually becomes a democracy. See, art always, after you die, what is it, 75 years, your work goes into public domain. And once you release your art into the public, whether or not it succeeds or how people view it, their reception of it, maybe to you personally, how you feel about your art, there isn't a democratic process to it. But as far as art being released out to the world, I'd say it always ends up being a demo every time. So I completely disagree with George R. R. Martin on that. I don't think when you're writing it or working on your art, you should think about it that way, but the results of it are typically that. I don't agree with him at all. But to say, just because George R. R. Martin said that, that means that you're happy that we don't control the show. It's like, yeah, this show that I don't want to control. I just wish somebody better was doing it. It's not like I think I should write Game of Thrones. I just wish somebody better than D&D would write Game of Thrones. It's like The Last Jedi. I don't want to make that fucking movie. I just didn't want Rian Johnson to make the movie either. It's not that I wanted to make it. I don't want to fucking make a Star Wars movie. Who's your favorite director? Probably Woody Allen, but if I had to pick a more, you know, traditional choice that isn't, because Woody Allen's seen of as a more of a writer, I think, than some people give him credit as a director, even though he's a wonderful director. Sidney Lumet, probably. Sidney Lumet, probably my favorite director. He's invisible, and some people say it's because of a lack of style. I just listed you all the fucking good Woody Allen movies. They say Sidney Lumet lacks style, but it's not because he lacks style, it's because he was just an invisible director. Because, man, you think about his run in the 70s, I'll put that up with Coppola. Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, Network. Dude, come on. Come on. And he did his first movie's 12 Angry Men. Holy shit. That's your first fucking movie, and he does The Hill, the Anderson tapes, all terrific. Prince of the City in the 80s. Huge Sidney Lumet fan. Yeah, clearly George R. R. Martin had a falling out with D&D, and we're not going to hear that story till later. I don't know who would want to write Game of Thrones. There's a lot of people. I mean, you know, you mix it with different writers from different shows. Vince Gilligan could work on it. Drew Goddard, who he worked on Lost and then did Daredevil, and he wrote Cabin in the Woods. I think he would be very good at writing Game of Thrones episodes. Paul Dini, who wrote Batman the Animated Series and a lot of Justice League, and he worked on Lost. I think he would do a good job. I think there's a lot of writers you could bring in to work on Game of... I think it should be one of those shows where they have a rotating writer's room, where it isn't D&D write 90% of the episodes, and then Brian Cogman or Dave Hill write an episode occasionally. I think that every other show... If you watch most TV shows, every show's written by a different writer. Like Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan didn't write every episode. But D&D write most of the episodes of Game of Thrones, and that's the biggest issue, because David Benioff's really the writer, for being fair. But yeah, I think Game of Thrones should have a bunch of writers. I think they should have a huge writing staff, and I think a lot of different writers should come in and write episodes, just like when George Martin writes episodes, because episodes used to be able to stand on their own on that show. I love the first intro to Death Note, and I like the second intro to Death Note even more. Yeah, Drew Goddard. I think he would be a really good choice. He also did that Bad Times at the El Royale recently. But I think he would do very good on Game of Thrones. But yeah, I think a lot of people should be on that writing staff and come in and write. They changed directors a lot to bring people in. Like, they brought Jack Bender in for a season, who directed most of Lost. But I don't think D&D are necessarily bad showrunners or producers. They just need more people in there to be creative and write better scripts. This really just needs better scripts. That's the biggest issue with Game of Thrones, are the scripts. Because a lot of the bad filmmaking is a result of the bad scripting. I agree with you, video games are underrated as an artistic medium. Which great French movie should I watch? I mean, Jesus, dude. Just start with Jules and Jim and go from there. I mean, yeah, it's hard not to put... yeah, Kurosawa's definitely up there. Ozu's up there. Rossellini. Fassbender. Dreyer. David Lynch is one of my favorite filmmakers, especially after Twin Peaks 3. That made me love him even more. Yeah, a lot of... Krzysztof Kieslowski, I think that's how you say his name, the Three Colors trilogy, and the Decalogue, great filmmaker. Scorsese, obviously. Yeah, they said they couldn't find out a way to have Jon Snow pet the direwolf. Like, what? So you can have giants mixed with people, but you can't figure out how to have Jon Snow pet the direwolf without it looking like bad CGI. But you could show people riding on top of dragons. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, shut up. I didn't mean Michael fucking Fassbender. I wasn't talking about him. It's funny, before Michael Fassbender, the director would have probably been the most famous Fassbender. But now, because of Michael Fassbender, he's obviously the most famous Michael Fassbender. He's the most famous Fassbender now. Yeah, I've Lost Odyssey. I know of it. My friend played it and told me it was great. They're gonna make Neverending Story 4 and call it that, or are they just making a new Neverending Story movie? There's actually a mocap Neverending Story movie's not the worst idea. Um, we're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony. Montana Max has money, Elvira is a saint. Camera. At Acme University, we get our tune degree. The professors here have been something since 1933. And now our song is done. Duh. Oh yeah, Paul Dini also wrote on Tiny Toon Adventures to bring him back up. God, he should write Game of Thrones. I like Ashitaka. I mean, he's a Gary Stu. And there's flaws with Ashitaka, but I like Ashitaka because he represents the altruistic nature of people like that in humanity, and that's how that kind of balances the two sides going at each other. I think it's well designed in that way. Because Ashitaka is really just used as an avatar to explore the people of Irontown and then the creatures of the forest, the gods and all that stuff, like these ancient creatures. I think Ashitaka is a fine character, has a lot of charisma. It is interesting though, because it's like really the only like male protagonist in pure Miyazaki films, because I know he did Lupin, but and I guess you could say Castle of the Sky, but really, yeah, it is an oddity. Typically he would do the heroine. Ashitaka is kind of the, and it's not like you don't get that character with San, but she is the supporting role in that, and I do think she's a little underdeveloped. Maybe she should have been the main character. Oh, Kevin Conroy, you met Kevin Conroy? That's sweet. Yeah, no, I think Neverending Story could be cool. Like mocap. Obviously, Andy Serkis would be 10 of the characters. But yeah, I'd see a mocap Neverending Story. With the right director, that could be a cool movie. Biggest death this episode. I mean, Cersei, maybe, is gonna die this episode. I read the spoilers, I read the leaks, but we know, we have yet to see if that's totally going to be true yet. Although I believe those leaks are true. Yeah, Kevin Conroy's awesome, man. Everyone thinks I always hated Game of Thrones or D&D. It's like, guys, I loved Game of Thrones. The first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones I loved. And I was a huge apologist for Season 5, despite me noticing all the dumb writing like Littlefinger taking Sansa to the Boltons and her agreeing to it, or the shit with Stannis. That final sequence with Stannis is so ridiculous. And that Season 6 I was very forgiving towards, because I like the second episode, Home, written by Brian Cogman. I like Winds of Winter, the finale, even though it doesn't make sense. I think visually it's amazing. I think Miguel Spatula did a good job. I like the episode Jack Bender directed, The Door. I like that episode quite a bit. Season 6, I like a few of those episodes. Season 7, I like the Dragon episode directed by Matt Shackman, even though Jaime or Bronn should have died, and there's no way Jaime would have survived that fall into the water. But visually exciting. So far, the season hasn't had one episode like that yet. That dragon battle last season was better. The Battle of the Bastards tracking shot with Jon Snow was better. Like, this so far has been the least interesting season visually. Visually, this has been a very ugly season. I think the biggest mistake is having David Nutter direct so much of it, who I think is very mediocre. I can't believe they didn't bring in better directors. I think the Miguel guy, huge disappointment on the Battle of Winterfell. I've been disappointed with the aesthetics of this season, and with the dialogue. The actors are trying. Emilia Clarke is trying. She's giving a better performance than she has in a while. It is unfortunate. I think the actors are trying. It's just they're given really terrible material. It's really bad. Oh, RoboCop as Batman, yeah. Did he do the voice in the Dark Knight Returns animated movie? Which part 2 to that is amazing. Part 2 to the Dark Knight Returns adaptation's actually kind of like fucking amazing. It kind of blew me away how good it was. I didn't think it would be that good. I thought it would be okay, and then watching it, it's like, shit, this is amazing. The sequence with him and the Joker from the comic is so well done. I didn't dislike Tangerine. I don't think it's that great. I think he got a little too praised because he put nice lenses on his iPhone. It's not a bad movie. I find that guy a little dry. What's his name? Shane Baker or something like that. He also did that movie with the kids and Willem Dafoe. I think his films meander a little too much. It reminds me of the same reason I don't like some Jim Jarmusch movies, even though I like Dead Man and Ghost Dog. But these movies that get praised for their meandering stories. I don't know if Ed, Edd n Eddy would work in live action. It could, maybe. I don't know. It'd be a weird movie, man. Say that right now. It'd be a weird fucking movie. These fucking pictures. Added you to a list. Why am I on a list? Don't put me on a list. Atheist Girl. What a clever name. I am Danny, tree hugging, animal rescuing, free thinking, godless humanist, liberal activist. Your parents warned you about. No, thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. I mean, I'll just give you my reaction to the Watchmen trailer. Visually, it looks very interesting. I like the cult of Rorschachs. We didn't get much sense of the plot or the story. The dialogue didn't really win me over. The TikTok thing's a little gimmicky. But visually, I like it quite a bit, and I like the Rorschachs. And I wonder where that's going. Outside of that, though, as a teaser, there really isn't there wasn't much to talk about. We didn't get a sense of what it's going to be or anything like that, so it really was a teaser. You know, so there isn't much of a reaction I can give. Danny, I think Danny will die by the end. I mean, I hope it's sarcastic, but I've learned in the past that these people aren't always sarcastic when they do that stuff. I would hope that's the case, but... okay, folks. I'm gonna walk on this interview with BBC. Alright. Okay. I don't like this interview. Alright, I'm gonna leave. Okay. I went on Joe Rogan's podcast, folks. Alright. I tried to explain Christianity. It didn't work. Alright, everyone's making fun of me. Okay, I said Bull Durham was overrated. That was a big mistake. I should have done that. You know, I said at one point, nothing could ruin Ben Shapiro's run at a presidential election. You know, nothing could ruin it. If you asked him any question in a debate, he would win. The public would be on his side. He'd be able to argue these conservative points so well. He would defeat any leftist on economics and so on. And then it came to the point where he tweeted out one time that Bull Durham is the most overrated baseball movie. And everybody in the comments was like, are you fucking crazy? Because Bull Durham's an incredible movie. And I was talking to Blood Money about it. I'm like, you know, that's the thing that would stump him. He's at like a press conference and everyone's asking him questions and he's killing it. And he's on TV. And then some guy goes, yes, Mr. Shapiro, to get off topic here a little bit, hey, what's your problem with Bull Durham? And everything gets real quiet. And he's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Yeah, you said here was the most overrated baseball movie of all time. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, why do you think that? And just everyone at home's like, holy shit. They're like, and then they read dialogue from Bull Durham and they're like, do you not think that's a good line of dialogue? That's very funny and well written. I don't like all the swearing. All right, I'm very sensitive to language like that in a movie. Oh, okay, I see. So are you saying that Kevin Costner isn't great as Crash in that movie? I think those comments were taken out of context. All right. You're saying Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins weren't great. Yeah, I don't want to comment on this any further. All right. You know, that's the problem. Yeah, are you telling me that are you telling me the sex scenes don't aren't titillating? Are you telling me that it isn't a great return to like classic romantic comedies like the Philadelphia Story or His Girl Friday, but modernized and with more sexuality, and also using it as an analogy between the sex and the baseball and men and women in baseball, and it kind of summarizes sports in a great way, in the same way that it also looks at the differences between men and women in relationships. And could you please stop talking? Okay, can we just talk about economics? All right, I don't want to talk about Bull Durham anymore. Yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna vote for you, bro. Sorry. Criterion just released Bull Durham too. Oh my god, they did. Uh, they also released Showa. Can we talk about Showa? No, we're gonna stick to Bull Durham. Okay, my bad. It has been a while since we got a BOA on a Sunday. It's because I got out of work early. I was working Mother's Day. It was a pain in the ass. And then I came home and I was like, gonna do box office act, bitches. I think Ben Shapiro has a huge chance. Donald Trump's our president. What the fuck are you talking about? If Donald Trump's our president, anyone could be the president. Literally. It's that simple. Literally. Okay. Ben Shapiro has pretty much all the makings. The way he looks, the way he talks. Now, we're not big on electing Jews, but if you're saying he has no chance, I think you're crazy. He wouldn't just win those debates. Also, Hillary Clinton was not winning those debates. Okay, that's just this misconception that Hillary Clinton was dominating. Those debates were a disaster on both sides. She was doing a horrible job as well as Trump. I don't want to hear that shit that she was dominating. She wasn't. I watched all of those debates. They were a disaster both ways. She came off fucking crazy. Ben Shapiro would be on there, and just the way he could explain policies, things that people think are crazy, especially his views on immigration and all that stuff. I think he would do great with that stuff. I think Ben Shapiro would have a really good chance with the presidential run. I'm not saying he would win, but would he get far? Yes, of course he would. No question. No fucking question, actually. Yeah, Shapiro would get a huge... Yeah, the country has a lot of conservatives right now. More than people think. He's become a celebrity figure. He's become like how Milo Yiannopoulos became popular. Then Milo got destroyed once he had that thing come out that he said on the Drunken Peasants. But Ben Shapiro, it'd kind of be hard to fault him. I mean, he's a married guy. He sticks to his religion. I mean, he's at least consistent in that sense. That he sort of lives by an example. He's quite presidential. Who the fuck just texted me? 1 second. Okay, folks. All right, I'm gonna be the president. Okay. Mostly likely not. That's funny. Yeah, not too much. All right. Blue Apron, folks. I love that I'm just texting while I'm on a live stream, just dead air. I'm texting this guy back. All right. Texting my friend about this concert. Going to a 1975 concert on Tuesday. Fucking in a car, shooting heroin. No, I can't do a Mark Wahlberg impression. I can do impressions of people I know in my real life if I'm around someone enough. I can do Michael Fassbender or Steve Jobs. That's a weird impression I can do. An overlord. Oh, 78 Body Snatchers is so good. In fact, all Donald Sutherland movies in the 70s are so good. I think I watched the Nick Fuentes Devin Tracy debate. But I'm actually good impressed. You just have to work on them. Like those things you're asking me, I haven't studied them. Like this is a weird thing in life. Like if I meet someone and they have a really distinct voice, after a couple of days, I can do their voice pretty well. I can do a really spot on impression of someone after a few days, but I have to really with impressions. You have to love the thing you're like. You have to actually really like. It's not like I got an assignment. I just do impressions of things I want to do an impression of. I mean, I probably did do a Mark Wahlberg impression, but I don't think it was very good. I probably did the same one everyone else does. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everyone does the same fucking impression. I do very specific impressions. The Ben Shapiro one, I don't know. And then Quentin Tarantino, I think my best impression is probably Quentin Tarantino. I try to do Jerry Seinfeld, but it just sounds too over the top. It doesn't sound right. It's the same impression everyone else does. It's not. It lacks nuance. Yeah, someone has to have a really distinct voice, and then I can hear it and I can kind of do their voice. But there's this guy I work with, and I do his voice all the time, and it freaks out because I sound just like him, and I kind of can do facial impressions of people, but. Ben Shapiro, I just watched so many hours of Ben Shapiro. It eventually got to the point where I was like, all right, okay, Blue Apron. It was those Blue Apron ads and the mattresses, you know, just like, Blue Apron, okay, it's only $200 a month. All right, it's really affordable. They send you the food, all right? The food's real good. It's already there. Shows you how to make the food. Okay, because he just does like an ad every fucking... Actually, if there was one sketch I'd like to do on SNL... Even though I hate it, I would like to be Ben Shapiro, and the whole joke with the sketch, and it'd be a short sketch, is like, you bring up something big in the news, like, all right, terrorist attack in the news today, folks. Okay, let's get into it, but before that, let's go to our sponsor. And then, like, the next topic, like, should abortion be illegal? Before we get to it, let's go to our sponsor. And he just doesn't talk about any of the topics, he just keeps going to sponsors. Because that's all Ben Shapiro fucking does. Yeah, I can do Jeff Goldblum all right. 82, the thing. It came out the same weekend as E.T., actually, which really hurt it at the box office. See, I always wondered with foot fetish if it was because human beings we're like the only species, I think, that have feet like that. Because we evolved and our feet are that way, so I always wondered if that was where the foot fetish came from, and that it was unique to humans. So men and women who have foot fetishes see it, and it's something about... It's connected to, I don't know, evolutionary biology. I don't know. Maybe Bathory could fill... Does that make any sense, Bathory? Would there be any validity to that? That the foot fetish thing would be tied into... that feet are part of our evolution? And how we stand and all that, so people are sexually attracted to that. Oh, I also think them being hidden in sneakers and stuff like that might have something to do with it. But yeah, that they're barely exposed, like ankles, stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I always thought, but I could be... Oh, well. Evolutionary explanations for sexual interests never work. Pat, give yourself a pink belly. I mean, I think SNL had great runs, but SNL has always been inconsistent. That's one of the big myths about SNL, is that it had these golden periods where every sketch was good, but there was always sketches that bombed. It's just we remember the great ones. But there was bad sketches back in the Bill Murray era and in the Dana Carvey era and all that stuff, in the Will Ferrell era. There was bad sketches and all that. No, there are fetishes about everything. It's just, I haven't read much about sexual fetishes. Yeah, people do seem embarrassed to talk about having a foot fetish. I do notice that. Because a lot of people think it's gross, or that feet are gross, I guess, because they're dirty. If they... But you would think that if somebody cleaned their feet, that wouldn't be a problem. I don't know. Thoughts on nudity, sexual fan service in anime? I mean, I don't know, it's just part of Japanese culture, being hypersexual. I mean, you go the Miyazaki route. I mean, wasn't an influence on the Final Fantasy series Nausicaa? The fucking Chocomo's or whatever in fucking Nausicaa. And Castle in the Sky feels very much like Final Fantasy and 9. So I would say if you do an animated series, you got to do it like Castle in the Sky or Nausicaa. Or something like that. Or Kiki's Delivery Service, I guess, too. But you need to go more of the action-adventure route with it. So I'd say adapt something in kind of the vein of a Final Fantasy 9 and play it like a Miyazaki homage. Yes, yes. We're pro sexy lesbians on this channel. I think there's a... I mean, hate Zack Snyder. It's Schneider, by the way. I mean, there's too many reasons. I kind of know how to sword fight a little bit. I know how to fence a little bit. I understand the basics of it. I've studied it a bit. I've practiced. Yeah, I don't like Uma Thurman's feet either. I gotta agree, they are weird. But I guess to each their own. I think he's just obsessed with her. Because yeah, she doesn't really have sexy feet in Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill. No, I've never ate swordfish. But let's continue these sword questions. I mean, yeah, I would collaborate with anybody. I'm not really picky. I don't care. That's a weird thing people don't get about my channel when they say the stuff they do. It's like, I don't believe in quality standards on YouTube. I don't think they exist. Because most of the biggest channels don't have any standards. And I don't really believe in this, like, this channel's successful or good or you're bad and all that. Like, I don't view it that way. I don't think of it like television or movies. I don't think it's the same fucking thing. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying Uma Thurman's not sexy. Don't get me wrong. And Baron Munchausen, when she comes out of that fucking clam, and yeah, Dangerous Liaisons, like, yeah, fuck, yeah, no, she was a very, that other movie, too, the Genetics movie with Ethan Hawke. That science fiction movie. It's so good. Fuck. What's the name of that movie? I never save anything for the swim back. Gattaca. She's beautiful in Gattaca. Oh god, is she beautiful in the movie. Yes, I do like David Fincher's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I don't really like the last half hour. But yes, I like that movie a lot. Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer was so sexy back in the day. It's insane. Her and Meg Ryan. You like watch Meg Ryan in Inner Space and Michelle Pfeiffer in Married to the Mob, and you're like, oh my god. Also, there is a foot massage scene in Married to the Mob where Matthew Modine's massaging Michelle Pfeiffer's feet, and she has very sexy feet. The opposite of Uma Thurman. Michelle Pfeiffer just had like a perfect face. Yeah, of course Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction make a good double feature. I've watched those two back to back, so... Really? David Stewart thinks that? I don't know if I would want to... I don't know if I want to debate him, but I fundamentally disagree with him on that, yes. I would like to talk to him about that. I mean, I'm friends with David. If you guys notice, he responds, to me on Twitter, but we did that live stream together. We were going to do another live stream about film genre, and a year went by, we haven't done anything, but I would love to talk to him about those. I'd wonder why he thinks that. That because the thing is that Clark Kent is who he is. But in Kill Bill, he's saying that Clark Kent's fake and Superman's who he really is. But that's not true. He really is Clark Kent. And that's a fundamental part of Superman. Throughout most of his run, too. It's not like that's... I mean, I get the idea that when he's at the Fortress of Solitude and the person he is Superman, because that's when he's being his most honest self, that his powers are being acknowledged. But one of the great ideas about Superman is, like, the costume is like almost a kid wearing a costume. It's an idea. It's like... he's Superman as a metaphor, but really he grew up Clark Kent. His parents, his relationships, his life is Clark Kent. That's not a role he's playing. That is who he is. Even if his origins are of Krypton and his name is Kal-El and all that, he isn't Kal-El. Because if that was true, then he would be Kal-El and he would go by Kal-El, but he doesn't for a reason. Because if Superman wanted, he could just live as Superman and be Kal-El. He doesn't have to go work at the Daily Planet. He doesn't have to do any of that shit. He chooses to do that stuff. It's not like Spider-Man or a lot of other characters where, you know, they're put in circumstances where they have to live a normal life and be heroes on the side. Superman could just be Superman all the time and it wouldn't matter. He's Clark Kent most of the time because he is Clark Kent. That's who he is. That's who he wants to be. He likes going home to see his parents and hanging out on the farm. He likes working at the Daily Planet. He likes going on dates with Lois as Clark. Ray Pierre's, I like. I think Meg Ryan petered out, but the early stuff, the When Harry Met Sally stuff, I definitely... Yeah, it's one of the great things about Superman is that he could have landed anywhere, but he happened to land where he did, and his parents raised him with this morality and made him such a human that took him to another place. I don't know. He believes that Superman is just portraying humans as he thinks they are, and he's some kind of god. I mean, he's not human. I mean, if that is true, Superman isn't a human, but I don't think he's portraying humans as what he thinks they are. I don't think Superman's mind goes that way. Superman doesn't have that kind of genius intellect where he's beyond humanity. He very much feels like a human. His emotions are based in humanity. And his relationships are human. It's not like... It's even that line in Batman v Superman, which isn't a bad line, or it's in Justice League. And it's not a bad line, even though I don't like that movie, where Ben Affleck's Batman said he's more human than I am. And that's a very good line, because it's very true. Because in many ways, he is more human than Bruce Wayne. Where Bruce Wayne isn't Batman, I'd say Batman is Batman, and Bruce Wayne becomes a mask after a point that he's pretending to be that person. But I don't feel that way about Superman. I'll probably never upload the Kyla Show intro, no. The original intro, no. And we'll probably redo it at some point, though. I'd like to remake it and do it properly. Even though Lion King's gonna make like $1 billion. Oh yeah, that chick was fucking hot, yeah. The chick's hot in everything, though. She was like absurd hot in that movie, though. I've watched a little of Doom Patrol. Okay, I'll look up Bedfellows. I feel like some Miyazaki movies like Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky are a bit generic, but their characters and the plots are a little contrived. Do you agree? I don't disagree. I think the characters are a little generic, the plots contrived, but I don't think that hurts those movies. I still think, because like Nausicaa's like his Star Wars. You know, that's what he's doing. In the same way, I think, you know, kind of Luke Skywalker was a bit generic, but Castle in the Sky, I think, is like Star Wars meets Indiana Jones. I think Castle in the Sky's got his best third act. Because I think Miyazaki's biggest flaw throughout his career is he doesn't really pull off third acts very well, even Spirited Away. His films kind of peter out, and I think Castle in the Sky is like amazing once they actually get to Laputa. But I don't disagree that has some of his more generic characters, but I'm like a fan of Kiki, you know. I'm a Kiki guy. I've heard Doom Patrol's really good. That's what people keep saying. I mean, maybe one day I'll show the Kylo Show intro to the High Council if I ever get back on the High Council, but I don't think that's happening. The Kylo Show. He's just a kid. The Kylo Show. Kylo Ren and his best friend Dave doing his best just to make him behave. I can't remember the next line. Anger management and therapy, trying to get over stabbing his daddy. But hey, it makes good entertainment for you and me. The Kylo Show. Yeah. Yeah, the best living animated director by far. Miyazaki. Him and Brad Bird. Because I think Iron Giant is very Miyazaki-esque. Well, Geeks and Gamer, Jeremy did say he would have me on his channel. Remember, he said I could come on anytime, but I never followed up on that. I should get a hold of him and be like, hey, dude, can I come on a Geeks and Gamer stream and just fucking talk shit? Like, I should just go on there and be a fucking asshole. Not to him, just in general. That's my biggest disappointment with that High Council, is I really didn't get my personality across. They were having their own conversation. It was just a weird show. The whole conversation was about George Lucas, and everybody was in a weird mood. But I would like to, I would like to go back on there at some point and actually, like, my personality actually be more close to what's on this channel. Of course, I've watched The Rescuers, and The Rescuers Down Under, which is an amazing movie. I would love to go on EFAP, though. I'd love to talk to Mahler. I think me and him would hit it off. Like nothing. I think we'd just hit it off like schoolgirls. No, I haven't seen that show. Alright guys, well keep telling EFAP to have me on. You guys have to do it. That's the way I got on the High Council. Every time that Jeff did a video, the chat was filled up with please rewind, please rewind. And honestly, I got along with Jeff great out of anything on that High Council. And the Jeff from World Class Bullshitters, he's a good dude. I like that guy a lot. I think he's the reason for that channel's success too. Yeah, fuck yeah, The Rescuers Down Under, Cordery. You know that shit's amazing. The lost film of the Renaissance. Dion was just, I don't know if he was drunk. Dion and what's his fucking name? Geeks fuck. Comics Arts Pro guy. I can't believe I can't think of his name. I'm a fan of his comic art. They were both in a weird place that night, and that's what made it weird. Dion was like just talking a lot, and the other guy was ranting about SJWs a lot, where I was just kind of trying to talk about random shit. We just weren't meshing, everybody. I think it got better in the second half. Ethan Van Sciver. Once me and Jeremy and Jeff just kind of started to talk about stuff and YouTube channels and each other, I think that really. But I did get that C3PO joke in early on about him being a sex droid for Anakin's mother. which I thought was the highlight of the whole show. Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, a masterpiece. The greatest of the Crocodile Dundee saga. Yeah, Ethan Van Sciver. Yeah, he was fucking pissed that night. He was like mad. So it was hard to talk to him. I was trying to talk to him, you know. It's funny, the conversation we had before the live stream started and the conversation we had after the live stream was so compelling, and I was like, shit, why can't this be the stream? It's like the one time I was on a live stream with Naked Ape. The conversation we were having before Naked Ape came on was so good, and then Naked Ape came in and everything went to shit, became a dumpster fire, and I always wanted to talk to Naked Ape, and I only got to talk to him for like a minute, and then he left the stream with me and Frasier. And then Aiden Paladin came in later, but I wasn't there for that. And she was just fucking nuts. She just acted fucking crazy. But yeah, in fact, I was invited on Naked Ape's live stream. I forgot about that. Frasier had set it up that they were going to have me on Naked Ape's the weekend chimp out. I was going to go on that when we were talking about the mundane Matt thing, but I couldn't get on it because I had to work that day. So I was going to be on a stream with Ape, and also Wild Smile was going to have me on there for a while. So I've actually missed a lot of big opportunities like that I didn't get to capitalize on. But I will say, Naked Ape's a very difficult person to talk to. Like, when you're actually in a stream talking to him, he's very fucking hard to have a conversation with. Although he was one of the influences the why I kicked off, you know, the patriarchy back in the day. Alright, I think this show's going long enough. God, this has probably been over 2 hours, hasn't it? I don't know how long it's been going on. Thank you guys for watching Box Office Addict. And as always, if you are watching this show, you're probably a box office addict yourself. And I'm not here to help you with that addiction. I want to encourage it. I'll see you for episode fucking 80, guys. 80 goddamn episodes. Yeah, remember those boulders Rey lifted up in Last Jedi? Those were for Matt and his son. But I appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for tomorrow where I drop a new Game of Thrones review. An American Werewolf in London video is coming. Got the thumbnail ready, and some of the script is written. About half the script is written. Donnie Darko video this summer. And next week, next Sunday, week from now, we will get the Game of Thrones finale. Be here at 10:30, man. Spread the word. 10:30, right when the show ends, Eastern time. I will be here talking about probably how terrible the finale was, because that's what happens. Well, thank you, Will. That's very kind of you to say. There wasn't much box office to talk about. It's all Avengers right now, man. I didn't really get analytical about it. I just was kind of doing this as a way to say hi to you guys, because I know I haven't talked to any of you in a while. You know, it's been a few weeks. Yeah, I feel that way about No Bullshit as well. Well, I enjoyed you being here tonight, 86. Thanks for tuning in. You guys stay safe, too. Love you guys, man. Detective Pikachu is for faggots. Hey, guys, remember, please rewind your VHS tapes before you bring them back to the store. Okay, come on, guys. Don't be assholes. Be considerate of your video store clerk. That's all I ask of you. I'll play you guys some music to go out on. What should we go with? Let's go with a classic.